everybody. Andy Linneman here with John Foster. It's Sunday night before the draft. So the draft is this week. I'm in Cincinnati. John's in Maine. John, how the heck are you, buddy? And why are you in Maine?
I'm a little worn. I have a customer event up here this week and had too much stuff to fly to bring it. So I drove up today, a quick 14-hour drive to get here. But
Awesome.
lots of
Don't
time,
give too much away yet, but you've been listening to a lot of New York radio.
a lot
And
of time to listen to sports call-in radio and big week. So
we'll talk about that. So this is not going to be a Bengals Giants centric episode, but because of this trade that took place yesterday, there'll be some of that. So we want to talk about this trade a little bit. There's been lots of podcasts that have done that. That's not what we do. To the extent we're going to talk about it, it's going to be like in the context of how you might learn from this Bengals Giants trade that took place and how to apply that to your All-22 team. Before we do this discussion, we always like to start these episodes by saying, if you are in an All-22 league and you're not listening to Chris and Ray's All-22 NFL podcast, then you are missing out. And that explains why John and I are beating you in all these leagues, you see. So be sure that you're listening to Chris and Ray's All-22 NFL podcast, which you can find on wherever you access your pods, as well as YouTube. And thank you for watching this episode tonight. We're also excited to tell you guys, if you're in a league with us, you've seen us texting the chat about this thing called Pick Pool. So Pick Pool is this really cool free app that you can download from your app store, and it allows you to forecast who's going to get taken in the draft this week. And there are all these contests out there with prizes. So go to Pick Pool. And as you do that, know that John and I, the All-22 guys, as well as Bobby, Chris, and Ray, the guys that own All-22, we all have a contest. And it's a contest that has a $250 first place prize. And it's called the All-22 Fantasy Contest. So go out to Pick Pool, find the All-22 Fantasy Contest. There's going to be 50 entries. We're going to post this to all the leagues that we're all in. So hopefully most of the people who sign up for this one are in All-22 leagues. And John and I are going to participate if we win. And I assume the same is true of Bobby, Chris, and Ray. If any of the five of us win, we're not going to take the prizes. We're just going to brag that we beat you. But whoever finishes outside of the five of us, which of course, John, it goes without saying, you and I will be 1 and 2.
let me tell you something. I am terrible at this. I bet you I'll get 20% of the drafts picked because I pick with my heart. I'm like, oh, that's the best player. This would be the best player for this team. And there's a lot more to drafting players than just what you believe about it. So, I'm probably going to get the first pick right. And after that, it gets suspect from that point forward.
Yeah. So, John, last year I entered a bunch of these. I love this. John Ganster, my fantasy gridiron partner, and I, and his kids, and a bunch of other guys had been doing this same thing for years on a spreadsheet. So the fact that they put this in an app is pretty cool. And I remember last year, I had entered a bunch of these different contests. And I remember in one of them in particular, after like 8 picks, I'd gotten like 7 out of 8 exactly right. And I was pretty close on another one. I'm like, and as the draft progresses, it tells you where you're at, like you're first of 320 or you're third out of whatever. And by the time we got to pick 12, it was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm cooked. I wasn't even in the running anymore. So it is a cool app. And by all means, let's support Chris, Bobby, and Ray by checking out Pick Pool. And if you're going to do one, start with the one that we're all sponsoring. So there's nothing in it for us. We're just doing it for fun, and we hope you guys enjoy it. So hopefully somebody who's in an All-22 league wins. If I had to guess, it'll be Orlando or David or somebody like that who's great at these drafts, and they can brag. So the draft is coming up on Thursday, John. I'm always super excited. This big trade took place yesterday, so this is Sunday. And I got a call last night from John Ganster as I was like kind of nodding off to sleep on the couch with my wife on my shoulder, telling me that Dexter Lawrence had been traded to the Bengals. Pretty interesting trade. So I just want to kind of talk through that, not in the context that other people talk through it, but we've heard all of these podcasts who have already weighed in on this stuff live. But the thing that's interesting to me, and sort of the take that sort of parallels to All-22, is that the Bengals are a franchise that has never done big swings like this. They've started to shift as a franchise since they drafted Burrow and saw that he was a real talent. And if you're not a Bengals fan, again, this is not a Bengals-centric podcast tonight, but it is relevant to understand that for a team that has been super traditional, even doing something like changing the naming rights to the stadium, and you can't do anything Bengals that is not like everything has sponsorship everywhere now. They're driving revenue. They're re-signing wide receivers. They let Trey Hendrickson walk. And just about the time that you go, see, this is what the Bengals do. They shocked everyone last night by making this trade.
Well, they traded their number one draft pick for this. They've only traded their number one draft pick twice before. One of it was to move up with Kajana Carter. That since their inception in '68, this will be the second time they will not have a number one draft pick.
John, the last time was 1989, and for those that are NFL geeks, they would know that was the year that they were coming off a Super Bowl loss. So that would have been, I don't know how many teams were in the NFL. It might have been 30 at that time, could have been 32, but it was the next to last pick in that draft. So not having a pick in this draft is quite noteworthy. I was surprised they weren't getting anything else other than a 10. The news broke that it was Lawrence for 10, and I thought, well, they're probably going to be getting a fourth or a fifth. And what's been interesting to me is if you go out and look at articles about it, it's pretty divided. You'll have some people saying, oh, the Bengals got this great player. Some people will say, I can't believe they gave up, that's all they got back, was just Lawrence. The Giants made a great trade. My reaction is anytime you see split reactions, it's probably a fair trade. It's a win-win or a lose-lose. You can't give up something. You can't get something without giving up something.
So a couple things. One is, as I said, I drove through Pennsylvania and New York and Massachusetts today and got a lot of time to listen to sports radio. And the Giants fans were down generally. That they're going to miss Dexter Lawrence, and there's a lot of people thanking him for his years of service. They're now down to one player that played with Eli Manning, apparently.
Wow. Okay. I don't even know who that would be. Who is that? Is that like Andrew Thomas?
No,
he wasn't even around then.
But
whoever it was.
I'd have to look at a depth chart to.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's a lot of fans that were sad. There are a lot of fans that couldn't believe that all they got for him was a number 10 overall draft pick. I've talked to several of the Bengals fans that I know, and they can't believe we gave up the number 10 pick and that we shouldn't have given up that number 10 pick for him. So again, when people are divided, it means that there's probably some relevancy to say it's a pretty fair pick or pretty fair trade. I think really what it boils down to is that the Bengals are having to pay him, and they're going to have to pay him a significant amount of money.
And that's already done.
Yeah, and the good thing about that is they're doing it off of a down year for Dexter Lawrence. Now, a down year for Dexter Lawrence still puts him in the top 5 of all NFL defenders, and one of the cream of the crop defensive tackles. But They didn't reset the defensive tackle market with money. Had he been a Pro Bowl, all had a number 1 season like he'd had the 2 previous years, that would have reset the defensive tackle market overall. So they got him for a deal. They extended him. They are able to manage it under their salary cap, and they're able to rework contracts as many as they need to continue to grow. And hopefully, as a Bengals fan, they're not done. But as you said, this isn't about the Bengals. What I believe this does, where I think this is the huge win, is that every player on the defense gets better for the Bengals. That you want to take the pressure off your linebackers, have a defensive tackle that's rushing upfield faster than the quarterback can retreat.
Yeah.
If you improve your cornerback's ability to cover, have the quarterback running for his life. If you want your safeties to be better. So I believe personally that everybody on the defense for the Bengals, who were not great last season, will be better this season because of his presence.
I agree, especially the second level defenders, man, who weren't great last year. So we're talking about fan reactions. Generally speaking, my read is that most Bengal fans are over the moon. Giants fans, as you said, you were listening to sports radio today, sports talk radio, and they weren't happy. Bobby Aker, who is one of the 3 All-22 guys, and I were texting about this pick pool thing today, and he said, I absolutely hate the trade. We should have paid Dexter what he was worth. His quote-unquote down year last year would be a career year for 95% of the league, which I totally agree. He's an absolute beast and one of the very best to ever play the position, and he's going to be awesome for you guys. And so, it's what's fascinating to me, John, is why would the Bengals do that? So now I'm going to kind of geek out on NFL stuff that's not necessarily all 22. John has access to this event that takes place every year at the Bengals facility, where they invite really long-time season ticket holders to come in and meet the rookies. And it's a really small number of people. Let's say it's, I don't know, John, 250, 300 people or something like that is the total number of tickets. It's a small gathering. And John has access to these tickets. He was kind enough to invite me to attend. And we went to this event. And, what happens is you meet the rookies, you kind of line up and they sign footballs. In fact, if you look over my shoulder, that football over my shoulder is the one that was signed by all the rookies. And, for those of you who know me, you might imagine that I'm like getting to know these guys, and I probably know their underwear size by the time I've gone through the line. It's one of my things is I get along well with people, one might say. And I kind of came away from that experience feeling like they really drafted a bunch of choir boys, which is not a terrible thing. I'm saying they're all really good, mature kids, which kind of, if you look back at the guys, the Bengals had a rocky road coming out of that Marvin Lewis era, and they made a really conscious effort to bring in guys that had no red character flag issues, and almost to the point that for a few years, 8-10 years, I kind of felt like it's almost like we need a guy with a little bit of edge, okay? Just one guy's opinion. So I meet these rookies last year, and then what happens is this event last year came 1 year after the Bengals drafted in the 3rd round, Jermaine Burton. I'm not here to say anything bad about the kid. I've never met him, but he's no longer on the team. It was a bad pick by anybody's definition. He lasted a year and a half. They had all kinds of issues, and it was kind of reminiscent to some of the experiences the Bengals had with their draft picks for about 10 or 15 years. As some teams can do, it's almost like an overcorrection last year, and they brought in these guys who are just, these are the kind of kids you'd leave your kids or grandkids with to babysit.
Outstanding citizens.
Yep. Really nice, great kids. So, like when people are crapping all over the Bengals linebackers last year or Shamar Stewart, I'm going, give it a minute, because these are good kids and mature young men that I think will find their way in the NFL. I could be wrong. Anyway, it led to this Q&A. So they had a Q&A session that we thought we'd share with you guys, where Trey Brown, who's part of the Bengals personnel group, part of their front office, I had the opportunity to ask him a question, and we're going to play my question and part of his answer about character red flags, which we'll play for you right now.
I have a question for Trey. Trey, it's obvious that character and leadership is important to the organization. Just listening to these guys and spending a few minutes with them earlier, they all seem like great young guys, right? So as you're building a draft board, going through a draft process, without revealing too much, how many players out of that group of whatever it would be, 400 players, get red flagged and pulled off the draft board because of character issues, not medical, but character? Just morbidly curious.
I think it varies year to year in terms of the overall number, but yeah, you're right. I mean, that's something that we look into a great deal, and you know, a lot of these guys up there, I know a lot about them. They don't even know it. You know, from the research and the studies we do over the course of many years, and you know, I think Zach and the coaching staff have done a great job putting together the culture that we want to have in our locker room. And I think as we continue to go forward, we have to be mindful on what guys fit into that. So it's kind of a long answer to say, like, there's probably quite a few, but it might not be for, you know, something that's that bad. It just might be because it's just not a fit for us, or we might already have that personality in the locker room, or maybe they're going to drain resources from the organization because we got to spend time to tell them, get to meetings on time, you know, do things the right way. And, you know, ultimately, like I said before, we're trying to find good players, number one, but the character stuff does weigh heavily on us. And I would say there's probably a handful, 5 to 20 guys each year that don't really fit our locker room standards and will be better fit for us whooping up on them somewhere else.
So, John, I felt like they overcorrected last year a little bit. We'll find out in the years to come if that's true. But it seemed to me that they erred on the side of maybe character. And now why is that relevant? Well, they're sitting at pick 10 this year. It's probably not the best draft class, but not terrible. They need a defender. And you're sitting there at 10 and you go, who's the most likely guy to fall to 10? And I don't know. I kind of feel like they were afraid Ruben Bain was going to be the guy that was going to be on the clock for them, or an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. I could be wrong about that. And I just feel like, knowing these guys as I know them, that's kind of why this trade took place. Any reaction to that?
I think there's a couple things that are there. What I was impressed with the answer that was given to you was about, they knew more about the players' backgrounds than the players even knew they knew about. I think they do an awful lot of due diligence to make sure that these are good citizens and they're good players. What I believe is happening in some of this is that there are a lot of scenarios where the players that can make an impact, and you're harder on Bain's potential red flags than I am, but I'm harder on he would have to be an anomaly with the short arms. He's got T-Rex arms. So, you know, that there are a lot of draft scenarios where there is not a true difference maker that the Bengals feel like that they could have. So would you trade, and here's the question I have for you. Would you trade the number 10 draft pick for a defensive tackle that is one of your team's weaknesses, big weaknesses, can't stop the run? I mean, if anybody's going to play the Bengals, they're going to run on us, and they're going to run a lot.
That's going to be their primary game plan, is keep the ball out of Burrow's hands and extend the game, take a possession away by running the football.
So would you trade the number 10 pick for somebody that's been in the NFL for 7 years? Their worst season, they were rated number 9 defensive tackle in the league and had a 75.6.
Right.
Grade.
That goes back to Bobby's comment that if that's your worst grade, you know, you're a stud.
Yeah. I mean, in all 22, 68 will win you the week, right?
Right.
We consider that if you get a 68 or above and get beat, it was a bad beat.
Yeah.
So
75% win percentage, I think we figured out over the years.
Yeah, I thought it was even higher than that.
Maybe.
But at 75, you're way above that number. Yeah. So would you trade somebody that's 28 years old, has plays in a position that plays solidly until you're 33, 34, 35. So you've got 4 years coming, And in my opinion, the Bengals have a window that's open right now with Jamar Chase, with Burrow, with everybody else. So if you need to wait for somebody to develop to be that guy, you're 3 or 4 years down the road and you've wasted those 3 or 4 year windows. The Bengals did this year, and is so different from every year that I've ever followed the Bengals. Is they said, you know what, the window is open. Let's go for it and win right now. And I have never been a huge Mike Brown fan, but today I'm a huge Mike Brown fan for pulling the trigger.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting move, and the answer to your question is I would. And so what's interesting to me is just that, like, I feel like the NFL is shifting. And when you reach a point that teams like the Bengals, who have been super traditional and like you can almost predict them, like what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. When teams like that, it's such a disruptive move that on the face of that, if nothing else, I think it's bold. And that's where I would like to then, okay, so what's the parallel to All-22? So John, the answer to your question is I would do that. I'm in whatever I'm in, 4 or 5 leagues now, whatever the number is, 4 leagues that are existing today. We've started a league, but I'm in 4 existing leagues, and I have Dexter Lawrence in 2. And if anybody has Dexter Lawrence in the other 2 leagues and you'd like to get rid of him, if I have pick 10, I'd gladly part with it. So my question is, what's the parallel to All-22? So my comment on this, John, is that I always feel like at this time of year, if you guys have not watched our content before, but you're in an All-22 league, this is the time of year where I feel like if you want to know how to win at All-22, I'm telling you how to win. Right now, you want to know how to win, how to beat each of us? Here's what you do. Go in and do a look at all of the rosters, just create a simple spreadsheet. Maybe you only do the top 4 or 5 teams. Compare your roster to the other teams. Don't use PFF grades, use points per game. And just use last year's points per game. Obviously, things can shift from year to year. Teams have changed, guys have shifted teams and the people around them have changed. But just start with simple math. What is your points per game based on the lineup you have right now from last year projected to this year? And if you feel like you've got a good team and you're among 4 or 5 other teams, you're all kind of in a cluster, then I'm going, what move could you make? Who could you go get that's going to really shift the balance? And I feel like sometimes teams are really conservative and overprotective of draft picks. I love draft picks as much as anybody, but this move is the kind of move, to be honest with you, that I would make and I have made. And I feel like that's how you really improve your team, especially for a guy like Lawrence, who still has a long run. Not only does he have a long run in front of him, unless he decides to retire early, he has a long run in the peak years of his career. So that's what I would say. If you have an All-22 team and you're in the cluster, if you project out your scores and you're like in a lot of leagues, you're a top team among 4 or 5 other teams, what bold move could you make right now to go get an existing player, not a rookie, that could really change the fortunes of your team in this year and go win a ring?
Well, and so, I do the points per game math exercise every year.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between a championship team, a playoff team, are minuscule.
Yep.
2 points per game.
Yep.
How do I get those 2 points per game?
Even like a point and a half, a point, right?
It's by, there's no one player that I can change that's probably going to give me 2 points. It's really about 2 or 3, but it's about identifying those 2 or 3 moves that can get you those 2 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
And I go by the philosophy of improving these 1s or 2s. This is the Bengals version of that move this year. That we are the Bengals, as a Bengals fan, they're going to run on us. This stops that. The other thing that I made the comment to you earlier about is that I believe personally that the offensive lines in the NFC East are pretty good. The Eagles, the Cowboys, Commanders, maybe not so much as compared to the Eagles or the Cowboys. The offensive lines, especially with Linneman moving out of Baltimore, the offensive lines are not nearly as strong in the AFC that they are in the NFC. So I think Dexter could have a fabulous year going up against Cleveland's offensive line. It's probably going to have some rookies on it. Going to go up against Baltimore's line. It's probably going to have some rookies on it. Going up against, Pittsburgh's offensive line, probably going to have some rookies playing. That he could feast. So this is a move to win now, and it's fabulous. But I think it's the same thing when you parlay that into how to play all-22, is that you find those one or two pieces. And it doesn't matter whether you believe in the draft pick or the person, but if you believe in them, go after them, go get them.
Yeah.
Figure them out and add them to your roster.
And be bold, right? Like, just be bold. Because, like, we all know that we don't have to camp out on this too much, but it's really hard to impact your ability to win this year with the draft pick this year, right? Like, so
very few of those that will just turn the tide. And, you look at the draft picks from last year that had terrific seasons, but it'll take a year or two for, second contracts when they become Pro Bowlers, perennial. Yeah. So if anybody wants the Pro Bowl quarterback from Cleveland, I will trade him. Okay. But rookie Pro Bowl quarterback up for trade right now. I'm just saying. But
all right, I love it. John, if there's a hot take from the draft this week, my hot take, like, let's if you have one or two hot takes, mine is I think Reuben Bain, like, we were kidding around about his alligator arms. That's not a nice thing for me to say. The thing is, he's got 2 strikes against him in that he's a statistical outlier in terms of arm length. That doesn't mean he won't be a great pro. But it does sort of lead you to believe that if people are indecisive, that could be a reason that he slides a little bit. And then when you mix that with the character stuff, like you said, these teams know way more about his character and background than I do. I have no clue, right? So I'm not here to say anything negative about this. He's a young kid, right? So I don't have anything negative to say about him, but my prediction is those 2 things, those 2 flags, one is a measurable and one is a potential character issue, will be the reason that if there's a guy that falls out of the top 10, that's going to be my prediction. Obviously, I could be wrong. Do you have a hot take from the draft that anything we might expect to see?
So, well, I don't know if we'd expect to see it, but what I would believe this year is because of the draft class and my understanding of the players, and I'm a fan, so I just watch tape,
right.
On YouTube or whatever. I'm not analyzing it like an NFL draft, NFL analyst. But my one take is with the exception of only a few players, throw their positional weight out the window, get the player.
Yeah.
And Caleb Downs is the best example of that. Safety doesn't carry a whole lot of a weight in the NFL or in all-22, but if you believe he's as good a player as I think he's going to be, draft him early. Don't wait on him to say, well, I can't draft him at 4 or 6 because he's a safety. Sure you can. If he's a player for your team, positional weight out the window after first couple picks, because
so he'll go by pick what, do you think, John? What's his floor?
7.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And, we've been going through this whole draft process with him being, he's probably the number 1 guy. I don't know if you'd look at a consensus board from a couple of weeks ago, I think he was probably the most likely pick to fall to 10. And I think that's shifted a little bit. And I just think that we'll see. This is the fun thing about it, right? You don't know. It's a weird draft. It's a little bit like last year where you have a lot of these guys that are not the traditional high positional weight guys. You've got a lot of guards and there's some wide receivers, but you have some guards and linebackers that are popping this year. So it's a little bit of a different draft class in that way.
I think a guard will go a lot higher than we traditionally see him. I think.
But I think at the end of the day, like as I'm processing myself, how I would approach this particular draft, depends on the league. Some leagues I don't have a lot of picks early, some I do. And my reaction is going to be just take good players. Like don't get so hung up on it because you can end up leaning too much into positional weight and then not having good players, and that's not great. So John, as we move forward, we're going to have some more draft content. We'll get through this week. Maybe we'll do a debrief next week. And as we do it, I don't want to be like all these other podcasts. As we do it, we want to kind of do it as, what does that mean to you as an All-22 owner as you head into your drafts? We're kind of heading into rookie draft season for All-22 league. So we'll be back in the next couple of weeks with some more content.
Well, and we talk about that regularly. The one comment that I would make is that right now is a time, the draft is when people begin to join All-22 for next season. People get excited about it, everything else. So get your friends. There's lots of leagues out there. Join with your friends, create community. And Andy and I do this because we love the game. We don't get paid for it. We don't do any other compensation for it. I don't know, Andy, you might be monetizing this and getting wild off the 44 views that we had on the last episode.
Oh, yeah.
But join a league with friends, create community, begin to talk about it. But now is the time to do that and invite others to join and experience what we've had so much fun with. So do that. Listen to Chris and Ray and listen to their podcasts. I usually do it when I'm driving on the Apple app. I don't watch as much video from them because they frown on me watching videos while I drive for some reason.
What's up with that?
But I listen to them and they do much more of analyzing the players. I never played the game at a college level. I'm just a fan. So I let them talk about the talent and whose hips swivel better than the others. To me, they look about the same. It's hard for me to look at that. I tend to go to the analytics side of it and read the numbers of how fast they run and how their three cone and their broad jump and their height from the combine. But they talk about things that I don't know about and really understand in a lot of ways. But we tend to focus on playing this game and how to do it successfully. My last thing is do something. If you're in the middle and you've been in the middle for years and years and years and never won and everything else, it's time. Make a move. Do something that makes a change. And it may not be a total quality process, but I'm going to make a move. I'm going to do something. I believe in this player and I want to go after this player. Make it. That's what you got to do right now. And whether it's a draft pick or a player, make a move and try to move away from finishing 500 record and in the dead middle of the league. So for me, I always look at points per game. How do I get one more point per game? How do I get 2 more points per game? And I think that if I make this move, I could get a half point or 3/4 of a point per game on average. So that's the kind of stuff I do over and over again. So all of you that got trade offers from me, that's what I'm working on is how do I improve 1 point here or 1 point there? And I tend to give up, other resources. So if you're really deep at one position and you have 4 corners and you can only start 2, if I could give up that corner and get an outstanding linebacker, I might do that because I'm still only going to start 2 corners and I need another linebacker. So look at your rosters and figure out where you're deep, where you're shallow. How do I get that extra point per game? And that's how you win this game.
Agree, John. Good advice. And I would say to anybody who's in any league with either one of us, I think I just put a post out there in one of the league that I'm a commissioner, like maybe even today or yesterday. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm the commissioner. Like, I can put on my help you hat, if you will, and my fix it hat and give you advice. I don't always know what I'm doing. Like, it's not like I'm always right, but I've generally been pretty competitive in these things. And the reason we're doing this is because we're always striving to increase community and increase competition to help you. So if you are in an All-22 league with us,
reach out to either of us.
We're happy to help you. And if you're somehow
reach out to a lot of people and get communal advice, because if you get advice from 3 or 4 people and it's all consistent, chances are it's right.
Yeah.
We say if you sit in a meeting and think everybody else is an idiot, you're probably the idiot. So if you sit in a meeting and everybody's giving the same advice, it's probably pretty good advice.
Yeah. And the second thing I would say is that if you're seeing this video and you're in an All-22 league, not with us, then definitely, if you have any questions and we can help you, you want to know our opinion on the upcoming draft or who we like or don't like, or who you should trade, we're happy to weigh in. If you ever reach out to us, if you ever email us at our email address, we'll use your question on a future episode. So
we're happy to do that. It's my opinion. I'm often wrong, but I'll give you what I believe and give you an honest opinion of it and take that for input. Input is a gift, and you accept it and say that's good things to think about, and then make your decisions. But if you believe in somebody, go figure it out and try to figure out how to trade for them.
I love it. I love it. So be bold. So the takeaway as we head into the draft, just using this Bengals Giants trade, is to be bold. And if for the Giants, they now have an opportunity to have an extra pick in this draft, they'll probably move around a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they move back from one or even both of those picks and try to accumulate a little bit more draft capital in the second round. So in a way, that's kind of a bold move. And certainly for the Bengals, it was an uncharacteristically bold move for a team that's been kind of consistent in not being bold for a long time. So you take away whatever you want from that, but learn from that in terms of how you approach your All-22 team. So with that, John, enjoy the draft. I know you'll be on the road, unfortunately, but hopefully you get a chance to watch some of it. I know you'll be with family for part of that with John. So enjoy it. And thanks for your time. Hope you have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.
Have an awesome night. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Bye.